Greetings, esteemed companions, a fair day to you all. Glenn here, returning once more to your esteemed presence for the 12th episode. As we close out December 2024, I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And since it's the holiday season, it feels fitting to dedicate this year's final episode to Christmas with the Washingtons. So yes, wearing a different attire today, giving our joyous season. Today we'll explore some of the 18th century holiday traditions that George and Martha might have observed, tracing how their celebrations evolved from their early years to the later Christmases of their lives. In 18th century Virginia, Christmas was primarily a religious holiday, but it was also a festive occasion filled with visits between friends and relatives, parties, and public assemblies. For the Washingtons, the holiday season extended until Twelfth Night, or Epiphany, on January 6th, a day that commemorates the visit of the Magi to the infant Jesus. Interestingly, January 6th also marked George and Martha's Washington's wedding day. The couple was wed on that date in 1759. The celebrations of the time emphasized hospitality, but were far simpler than the Christmas traditions we know today. At Mount Vernon, the Washingtons hosted numerous close friends and relatives, often accommodating them for several days at a time. So let us embark on a journey to explore the Washingtons' Christmas celebrations across the years. I will share a number of these sources at our conclusion. One of which is this 1948 extensive research book by Olive Bailey. The earliest Christmas I have been able to trace dates back to 1740, when George was just 8 years old. That year, tragedy struck the Washington family as their home on Ferry Farm near Fredericksburg burned down on Christmas Eve. The family took refuge in a detached kitchen and endured what Washington later described as a cheerless Christmas Day. Here's St. Peter's Church in New Kent County, where Martha would attend Christmas services as a child and young adult. Some, but not all of these years were documented. The church still stands today and holds regular services. Christmas, 1751. George found himself in far different circumstances. He stayed at the Crofton House during his stay. He was aboard a merchant ship named the Success en route back to Virginia from Barbados. During this voyage, Washington contracted smallpox, a disease that would leave him immune for life but marked by scars. Despite his illness, he noted in his writings that he ate an Irish goose and drank to the health of absent friends while on board. Washington had traveled to Barbados with his older half-brother Lawrence, who sought relief from tuberculosis in the island's warmer climate. Christmas, 1753. George was on the western frontier with the Virginia militia during the winter of 1753. Upon leaving the frontier, they crossed a river, visited a Native American queen, and gave her presents. Giving notable Native American presents was an established diplomatic practice. Christmas, 1755. Washington spent the day writing orders while stationed in Winchester, Virginia. Christmas, 1759. One would think that George and Martha's first Christmas together would be a joyous one, but Martha contracted a case of the measles and was dreadfully sick through much of the first week of the new year. Christmas, 1770. Washington spent most of this Christmas in typical plantation activities, fox hunting with friends and family, and visiting his mill. He attended services at Pohick Church and had dinner at home with his family. Christmas 1775, Washington encamped at Cambridge with freezing temperatures and covered with a foot of snow. So frigid was the weather that soldiers kept guard had to be replaced every hour. Trees were leveled in every direction for firewood. Martha was there too, and not only helped to encourage George, but also boosted the morale of the entire camp. Christmas 1776. Christmas Eve, Washington convened a dinner meeting of officers at the home of Samuel Merrick to plot their moves on crossing the Delaware. Washington led his army over the frozen Delaware River on the evening of December 25th, 1776. This famous crossing of the Delaware led to the Battle of Trenton and a string of victories that revived the cause. Christmas 1777 was spent at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, in harsh condition, scarcity of food. Valley Forge was chosen as a strategic location in close proximity to the British in Philadelphia. What Washington hadn't calculated was that the local farmers would sell their produce to British troops rather than his shivering patriots. Almost half the camp was either sick or dying during this trying winter. On Christmas Eve, Washington wrote, "Every regiment is to draw provisions to complete their rations for tomorrow." It snowed Christmas Day, and by the next morning, it measured 4 inches deep. Christmas 1779, George and Martha were with the Army at winter headquarters in Morristown, New Jersey. On Christmas Day, George paid £15 for a band of music. A few days later, he attended the celebration of the Festival of St. John the Evangelist by the American Union Lodge of ancient, free, and accepted Masons. Christmas 1780. On Christmas night, Washington gave the orders to capture Sir Clinton Henry by surprise at his home on the Hudson. However, a brisk storm sprang up, scuttling the operation. Christmas 1781. Another bittersweet Christmas spent in Philadelphia. Washington had defeated Lord Cornwallis in the last major battle of the Revolutionary War in October 1781. However, their son, Jackie, died a few weeks after that victory from a fever contracted during the siege of Yorktown. George and Martha dined with Robert Morris at his Philadelphia home. Washington later wrote of this night that Mrs. Washington is better than I could have expected after the heavy loss she met with. Christmas 1786. One of Martha's cookbooks included a recipe for an impressive dish called a Yorkshire Christmas pie. On December 26, George wrote to David Humphreys, a friend and former aide, to tell him that the Washingtons had served this pie on Christmas, which most of all the company were hardly able to make a dent in its consumption. Speaking of recipes, you might remember Martha's Great Cake from episode 4 titled Martha, Martha, Martha. I won't go over the details here, but feel free to revisit that episode where I shared the recipe and its fascinating history. Christmas 1787. George and Martha were able to spend Christmas at Mount Vernon with family and friends. A few days prior, the morning of December 22nd, George went fox hunting with Colonel Humphreys, Major Washington, and Tobias Lear. Washington paid 8 shillings to a man who brought a camel to Mount Vernon for a show. Christmas 1789. This was Washington's first Christmas as first president of the United States, as the White House had not yet been constructed. The Washingtons were in their rented New York home for this holiday season. On Christmas Eve, President Washington attended to business. He met with General Knox, the Secretary of War. President Washington attended services at St. Paul's Church. Visitors in the afternoon came to see Mrs. Washington, as this was her regular visiting day. Christmas 1790. In 1790, the Washingtons were in Philadelphia again at the new seat of government. Christmas 1797. After retiring from the presidency, George and Martha came home to Mount Vernon. On Christmas Day, there was an appearance of snow, but it cleared. Martha Washington's nephew, William Dandridge, came to visit. Washington worked on his accounts and wrote a letter to Thomas Law, the husband of Martha Washington's eldest granddaughter. His letter included the words, "We remain in status quo and all unite in offering you and yours the compliments of the season and the return of many, many more happy ones." Christmas 1798. While most people were away, George and Martha had a relatively quiet Christmas, the last they would spend together. Washington spent his final Christmas writing letters to his friends. In one to George Washington Lafayette, he announced Nellie's upcoming marriage to Lawrence Lewis, which was to take place on February 22nd, 1799, George Washington's 67th birthday. George Washington died December 14th, 11 days before the Christmas of 1799. And there you have it, a chronicle of Christmases with the Washingtons. I hope you enjoyed this journey and wish you and yours the happiest of the season. And a huge thank you to all my viewers and subscribers in 2024. We were able to accomplish 12 episodes, one per month this year. I look forward to hearing from you and sharing more experiences with you in 2025. Happy New Year to you all.